Okay guys, so welcome back to Illustrator, and today we're going to look at the pen tool. And in my opinion, the pen tool is one of the most important tools in Photoshop, Illustrator, in fact the whole Adobe suite. Even in motion graphics you use the pen tool a lot. So the pen tool, how does it work and what do we use it for? So basically, pen tool is found in your toolbar quite high up, and if you look in the drop down menu, there's the pen tool, add anchor point tool, delete anchor point tool, and anchor point tool. Now we looked at the anchor point tool recently, so we are now going to look at the pen tool itself. Now the pen tool is basically a tool that traces out or draws parts or creates parts for us. So the first thing we could do is add a point or anchor point, and when we click in and add a second anchor point, it creates a path. Now I'm clicking and holding, and while I'm clicking and holding, you can see that there are two handles coming out here, and you see the path bending as I move my cursor around. So basically we could shape this around. So what do we have here is a simple shape, and again, to complete the path, just come back to the point of origin and snap it back. Now what do we have here is a white fill with a black outline. Now it looks like just a black outline because we're working on a white canvas, but if we drag it across to the gray area, you'll see that it's white. And obviously we could change the color of the fill and stroke by using the swatches panel here, and removing the stroke and so on, right? So this is how we could create easy custom vectors by using the pen tool. Now how do we use the pen tool? Basically, the pen tool is a vector creation tool, and when we click and we drop, what happens is that the curve is created, yes, but the handles, if you notice, the handles, in this case, let me drop this handle here. Basically, the handle here is a guide, right? In this case, now we know how to go back into our direct selection tool and use the handles and adjust our curves afterwards. But generally, when we use the pen tool, you can tell that the handle gives us a idea of where the line wants to go, so mostly in this direction. If we were to go up here to this point, notice how the curve swoops down and then swoops back up, right? It doesn't stop at this point and then shoots back up here, right? It goes in this direction first and then moves to this point wherever I want to put my third anchor point, and so on. So you can see I didn't drop any I didn't click and hold, I just dropped the anchor point. And by dropping the anchor point, it creates a sharp edge. So you can see there's no curve there, and the edge is sharp here and again here. And if I just click and add, it will just add sharp edges. But if I click and hold, I could bend the path itself, right, and create some curves in that case, right? Now if I hold Alt on the keyboard, I can now move this handle in the direction where I want the curve to go. So let's say I want the curve to mostly flow in this back in this direction, right? If you notice, if I come back here, you notice the curve just swoops in this way, and if I click here, you get that kind of bump effect, right? And that is just a click and drop. Now a click and drag would give it the handles, as I said before, and if I hold Alt, it will swing the handle where I want it to go, right? And now I can click and drag again and create a part like this. Now the pen tool takes some getting used to, right? It takes a lot of practice to get it. Now I'll show you a simple example of what the pen tool could be used for. So across here I have a image, it's a JPEG of a butterfly. So what we could do is try and trace out this butterfly. So what I could do first off is go to this layer in the layer panel, right, and I could add a new layer here. Right, I could lock the layer 1, so that way I know that this can't move, and I'll just be working on layer 2 for now. So with layer 2 selected, I'm going to select the pen tool, and we could zoom in, and I could just click a starting point here, and we could just get the general shape of this butterfly. So I'll go and click here and create a nice curve like this. Now this, knowing where to drop the initial anchor points, comes with experience, right? And if you notice, the handle is going into the butterfly itself. Now I'm just gonna shorten the handle and bring it out on the edge, so I know that the part will flow along the edge of the butterfly like this, right? So what we could just do is quickly start going around it. Now what happened in here is that this white area is the fill, and there's no stroke. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to switch it around, so that way I have a white outline instead, and I can see the butterfly as I go along. Right, so now I can click and drag and create the curve that I want, and I'm using the butterfly as a guide just to get the shape. Right, unfortunately the butterfly is a symmetrical object, but we're still gonna go around it instead of doing the half and duplicating it and flipping it. Right, so we'll just go right around the whole butterfly in this case. So yeah, we just use the butterfly here and move little by little. Now in this case, you notice that I went too far and piece of the butterfly is cut off here. Right, now I could Command Z and go back and select a point closer and just keep going along the path. Right, or I could just draw it how I want and then go back in and adjust it afterwards. So what I'll do, I'll just do this piece here, and let's create some hard lines just because we want to go back and fix it afterwards. Right, so create some hard lines down here and soft lines. Let's have a mixture of not perfecting it our first go, so that way we could go back in and use the other tools available to us and adjust the parts. Right, and as you become good at the pen tool, which is very important, as I said before, you will become faster at it. Right, and by becoming faster at it, it will help you to increase your workflow and do more in a shorter period of time. Right, so initially this would take you a little while, but don't get frustrated with it. Right, just keep going with it, and as you practice more and more, you'll get faster and faster every time, and you'll know exactly where to put these anchor points initially. Right, so you know what, I'll just go over the head here and we'll stick in the let's just curve this a little bit there. Right, so this looks very strange because let us now take this butterfly out of its element, and we have the shape here of it, right, which is an easy trace. Now you can see here that we use the butterfly, the real butterfly, as a guide, and what we could do is, let's undo and go back in and see here the anchor points that we have selected. So we have anchor points here, we have parts here. If we select these, we'll see the handles. Some of them don't have handles, so remember, to create handles we go to our convert to anchor point tool, anchor point tool, and convert this here. So now we can kind of round off these edges here. Right, and just round off these things here. So you can see now we kind of messed up this line, but that's alright. We just use this handle by itself by holding Alt and swing it back to where we want. So to move double handles, we just select it once. So in this case, you'll see two handles, and if we deselect Alt, we could move. Whoops. We could convert. We could use the handles itself, the whole handles itself. So we have a kind of round edge going on here. Right. So let's use. Oh, right. This was the main problem here. Right. So we could now choose to move this anchor point or even delete it altogether. But let's look at just moving it about first and just reshaping the head of it. Let's see. You see that there's a kind of curve here. We went around it. We could go and add back an anchor point by going to Add Anchor Point tool. And when we add the anchor point, we could click and drag in. Right, so we could add anchor points as we go along this path. So let's add another one right here, and that way we can now try and reshape these a little more symmetrical and get that shape going. Right, and now we just have a cutout of the butterfly, which is not symmetrical. Ideally, we could just split this in half, come along this line here, and then duplicate it. Right, because of the symmetrical nature of the butterfly. So let's look at this shape again, and it looks a little better this way. Right, we have some asymmetrical shapes going on here, but that's alright. So what we can do is just color it, and let us select a color for let's switch it around. Yeah, you could select something from, and we have now a shape of the butterfly. Take the visibility off the first layer. Now we have one butterfly. We could select it here, choose another color, tilt it, choose another one, make it smaller. Yeah, like that. And we could have, created simple vectors like this by just cutting out a shape. Now this is a very simple way I use the pen tool. There are more complex movements, but initially this is what you want to practice, right? Movements and how you use your parts and your anchor points and handles. So practice, 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 and I'll see you in the next one.